Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Town Crier. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and this week we have been exploring the tasks of grief. This series began in honor of the 8 children who lost their lives in Shreveport last month, and to help us better understand what grief may look like for the mothers and families left behind. So far, we have discussed Task 1, accepting the reality of the loss task. 2, processing the pain of grief. Recently, we used the story involving the MS Hondius off the coast of Africa to explain Task 2. Families connected to those passengers are dealing with uncertainty, fear, confusion, and emotional distress while waiting for answers. At first, people often focus on logistics and information, phone calls, symptoms, updates, but eventually the emotional pain begins to surface. Today, we move into Task 3 of grief, adjusting to a world without the deceased. We are joined by none other than Gladys, our therapist and co-writer.
Thank you again, Lola. I'm glad to be here in the studios with you. Um, this is such an important topic because this is the third task of grief and is often the most deeply felt by people. It's deeply personal, it can be painful, and it doesn't always seem to follow a straight timeline.
I am glad to be back here with you too. We are doing important work. Can you explain what this task really means?
Absolutely. The third task of grief is about learning how to live in a world that is permanently changed. So, when someone dies, especially suddenly or tragically, the people left behind not only grieve the loss of the person, they also grieve the loss of routine, identity, expectations, stability, and future moments that they thought they would have had. So this adjustment happens on several levels. First, there are the external adjustments. These are the practical things. So they have to now take over the responsibility that the deceased had handled, manage finances alone, parenting without a partner, returning home to silence instead of conversation, facing holidays, birthdays, and anniversaries in a different way. Everyday life becomes a reminder that something is missing.
And there's also an emotional adjustment, correct?
Yes, the emotional and internal adjustment can be even harder because it is invisible. People begin to ask questions like, who am I? You know, how do I move forward? Can I handle this without the other person? Grief creates this loneliness. It can create anger, guilt, fear, confusion, numbness, even relief in some complicated situations. But many people feel that disorientation because their emotional world no longer feels familiar.
We have experienced that when we grieve a loss. And sometimes grief even affects our spiritual beliefs.
Very much so, Lola. Loss can shake a person's sense of meaning and purpose. Some begin questioning, why did this happen? Is life fair? Where is God in this situation? How do I find purpose again with all of this tragedy? So, part three is rebuilding a sense of meaning in a world that feels totally altered.
Today, we also want to acknowledge a heartbreaking story coming out of Houston, specifically the River Oaks area. Authorities say that on May 4th, during a welfare check requested by a babysitter and Mrs. Mitchell's sister, members of the Mitchell family were found deceased in their home. Police are describing the tragedy as a murder-suicide involving Matthew Mitchell, his wife Thi Mitchell, and their 2 children. The Mitchell family was well known in the community as the owners of Traveler's Table. Gladys, how does a tragedy like this connect to task 3 of grief?
Lola, this is a profound example of what adjusting to loss looks like in real time. The grief is extended far beyond the immediate family, the entire community is affected. Customers who visit the restaurant regularly will walk in and notice their absence. Employees may wonder whether the restaurant will remain open. Friends and neighbors will struggle with shock and confusion. No, let's not forget the beautiful children that were lost in their community. Um, The children's school will feel their loss. Teachers and classmates will notice the empty seats, missing voices, and routines that suddenly feel incomplete. And for the immediate family, the adjustment is going to be enormous. So for the family, they're not only grieving the deaths themselves, but also the future moments that'll never happen. So birthdays, graduations, holidays, anniversaries, school events, family gatherings. Grief often includes mourning the future that was imagined.
Yes, my heart just breaks thinking of all they will go through. Can you explain that a little more?
I know this is a very, very tough story to cover. So, one part of healing involves developing a new relationship with the deceased. So, instead of physical presence, the relationship becomes one of memory, legacy, love, storytelling, ritual, and inner connection. People may cook their loved one's favorite meal, share stories about them, continue traditions, keep photographs nearby, and then focus on honoring their values through acts of kindness. The relationship changes form, but love doesn't disappear.
So, by its nature, this will obviously take time.
Yes, it will take a great deal of time. So grief is not linear. Some days people may feel stable. The next day, something small like a song, a chair, a familiar scent can reopen the pain. Task three is ongoing work. It's learning to live in a changed world while slowly rebuilding routines, identities, connection, and meaning.
To everyone listening today, and to the dear listeners of the Digital Town Crier, especially those carrying grief of any kind, we want you to know that adjustment takes time, patience, and support. If you are struggling, reach out to trusted family, friends, faith communities, therapists, or support groups. You do not have to walk through grief alone. Thank you for joining us for this Mental Health Awareness Month special here on the Digital Town Crier. May we continue to honor those we have lost by caring for those who remain.
So thank you, Lola, so much for all of the thought and planning that you put into these segments. Um, I would like to remind everybody that I am a coach and I am a counselor. Please reach out to me, reach out to any therapist. If you go to, there's a website that's called Psychology Today. And so if you go to Psychology Today, you can actually type in your zip code and you will be able to find a therapist available in your area. Some of the good things that you can see on that website is you can read the therapist bio. You can also look and see if they do grief therapy. You can check and see if they accept your insurance. So that's one resource that I would like to leave you all with today. So please do reach out if you need any help, if you have any concerns. I will definitely be here listening, waiting. I will answer any comments. Lola and I will put some thought into it. So like and subscribe to our channel for the next segment that will be coming up. Let me tell you about it. So, in the last segment for this whole series that we have been doing on the tasks of grief, sometimes people do call it the tasks of mourning. So, we have done the first task of grief, which is accepting the loss of the reality. We've done the second task of grief, processing the pain of grief. And today's segment was about the third task of grief, which is to adjust to a world without the deceased. So, our next segment will be on task four, which is finding a way to remember the deceased while moving forward in life. So, again, thank you guys for sticking with us and joining. Please do like and subscribe. Most of all, leave a comment and let us know that you've been here and you've been listening. Thank you guys so much.